And so this is what it all comes down to. At the Shoe on a Saturday night, Tennessee in town. It almost seems surreal. A college football playoff game in Columbus against an SEC team to boot. Not that that matters. All right. We appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And of course, it's the Ohio State Show. We're an hour earlier. Hopefully you got the updates. They were posted all over the place. If not, that probably means you need to follow us on Twitter, X, or you need to subscribe to the main channel and get the community posts each and every morning with the schedule. All right. Steve Hellwagon, of course, right next to me. Bucknuts on 247 Sports. Tony Girdman down below. BuckeyeHuddle.com and the Buckeye Weekly podcast, which I'm guessing produced a few segments this week. And yes. Tony, I'm sure, has seen plenty of orange on his laptop this week. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Great.
Well, Steve let us know that that you guys talked to the offense and the defense in regards to prominent players, coordinators. Steve, I'm going to start with you. I think more people are concerned with the offense than the defense. So we will start there in regards to Chip Kelly having to answer anything concerning, I don't know, a recent game or anything.
Yeah, a lot of the focus in the interviews, at least for Chip Kelly and the offensive players and Ryan Day, was what went wrong against Michigan. And, you know, the coaches seem like they want to take the blame for it. Jim Knowles went so far as to say he told the defense, remember how badly we felt after the Oregon game when we had let everybody down, essentially. I mean, without throwing the entirety of the offense under the bus, he completely threw the entirety of the offense completely and entirely under the bus in the nicest way possible by saying he told his guys, you know, remember after that game, the offensive guys, you know, went over, hugged you up, picked you up. You need to go grab an offensive guy and hug him up and pick him up. And, you know, if that doesn't tell you what was going on behind the scenes, I don't know if anything ever will. I mean, that was about as blatant as one side cost us the game. And he didn't even mean it that way. It's just the fact of the matter. And you know it, and I know it, and everybody in TV land knows it, and Chip Kelly knows it. And, you know, I think however long his tenure at Ohio State is going to last, if it's going to be meaningful and it's going to be productive, it needs to involve having a much, much better plan for this game against Oregon, or rather against Tennessee, and to get to play Oregon. And I think it's kind of stunning that you're at this point of the season going into game 13, and they are openly and actively talking about starting a player who has played 77 snaps all season long in Luke Montgomery on the offensive line. And I'm not saying he could be the answer. He may not be the answer. I don't know. It's kind of like the scene in what was it, War Games with Barry Corbin, that old grizzled actor. He goes, I'd piss on a spark plug if I thought it'd do any good. You know, it's like that's kind of where they're at today. I mean, they're playing a guy potentially who hasn't played all year because, and as Ryan Day said very tellingly, it's not necessarily because of anything he showed us in practice. You know, in parenthesis, he basically said it's because of how bad the last game went with the players that they did play. So those were two of the things that I gleaned from this, that Jim Knowles openly told his guys to go hug up an offensive player because they, you know, screwed the whole thing up against Michigan and they feel bad now. And things have gotten to such a point that they're going to play a guy who's never played. He played 27 snaps against Western Michigan of his 77 snaps this year. He has not played in a meaningful snap at a meaningful moment yet this year. Tony, what was your take?
Well, one of the interesting things is when Jim Knowles was asked about his defense, and it was mentioned, the question was like, you know, and your defense played well enough to win against Michigan. And Knowles stopped him right there. He's like, did we win? Did we win? No, we gave it points. We gave it, and it was it was quite the contrast from Steve. You'll remember Luke Fickell, I believe after the 2013 Michigan game where Ohio State gave up 41 points and questions about the defense came up, and he's like, "Did we win?
He meant
Did we
it the
win?"
other way. Yeah.
Knowles meant it the exact opposite way. Like, we did not do well enough to win, and it doesn't matter that they gave up a scoring drive of 2 yards and a scoring drive of 3 yards. There was the fourth quarter that happened, so there were still areas where the defense could have done more. In terms of the offense as a whole, and Chip Kelly, and it's you would hope that they have learned their lesson, that you would have hoped that they shouldn't have had to learn that lesson of don't run inside on Michigan, and also don't try running inside on Tennessee, and get the ball to your playmakers and all of those things that Ryan Day said they should have done after the fact. And yeah, so you learn your lessons, you move on, but then the players still have to execute. Yeah, you hope your coaches have a good plan, but then the players need to play better than they did as well. Even with a bad plan, with a little better play from the Ohio State offense, they win that game against Michigan. But you're going to need a better plan against a better team. And, I keep on all of these shows that we do that I'm doing, I keep telling, like, the fans have an opportunity to win this game. They have an opportunity to impact this game. When you're talking about an offensive line for Tennessee that is jittery they're already jittery. Their tackles jump quite a bit. And if you make them go to a silent count because of the crowd, then you have an advantage. So the crowd has an opportunity to impact this game in a big way. And I'm not talking about grumbling or booing. I'm talking about getting loud for the Ohio State defense. We'll see. I expect them to step up.
I expect them to step up initially. I am not so sure whether they will hold down throughout a game that's not meeting expectations. Down 10 in the second quarter, so forth and so on. And for 100,000 to be all pulling together, sure, some are going to be faithful to the end. Others at the very first hint of any type of issues or adversity are going to turn on this team. So hopefully the majority are with this team, because it's counterproductive, obviously.
Don't you think that makes those people as soft as they claim the football team is, or softer? I mean, that's my whole stance. Like, if you're going to give up in the first quarter, then don't show up. If you're just going so that you can, I'm going to boost.
Hey, I was there.
Yeah. If there's 1 3 and out and you can't handle that, go home, stay away.
Yeah.
An empty seat would be better.
This is going to be like the Snow Bowl, that they played in 1950. And now the weather's not going to be quite that bad, because they had like 6 inches of snow and it was blowing. It was like a blizzard. They played, and I think the temperature was like 10 or 15 degrees and it was blowing. And, it was a miserable game. Michigan won the game 9-3. And, X number of people were actually there. But in the 50 years that followed, a lot of people said they were there, that type of thing. And, I don't think we're going to have snow, which, I mean, we could, because the temperatures will be below freezing. But, it has rained here all week. I woke up this morning and it's pouring down rain again. Thank God, as a buddy of mine would say, that it's not 28 degrees today. Otherwise, we'd have 4 inches of snow on the ground right now. But right now, it's just traditional Ohio gray and dreary. So that's what Tennessee's walking into on Saturday, cold and dreary.
My brother lives in Nashville and says that they got their first snow, which they don't get usually more than one the entire year, but they already got it. So
yeah,
there is that. I'm sure it lasted 3 or 4 hours. So speaking of the crowd, there's this story out there that I have not tracked down, or have basically just heard told to me in various forms, and seen comments in the chat concerning some kind of leak of an Ohio State ticket code. And then there may be some concern over just a rush of orange invading the stadium. Has anyone gotten to the bottom of that, or found out any kind of truth concerning that situation?
Well, go ahead, Tony. If you've got
I don't. I was shaking my head. I have nothing. I asked Jerry Emig about the whole thing. And he's like, yeah, the game, I guess it's sold out, right? But there are a ton of seats, ton of tickets on the secondary market. But I'm not. I think it's probably going to be overblown in terms of how many seats the Vols are going to be in.
Yeah. I think that was much to do about nothing. I think for Tennessee, it is their first playoff appearance, and they have tremendous following, and it's only 6 hours away. So Knoxville, and there are a lot of Tennessee alums who actually live here in Ohio, believe it or not. Cincinnati certainly, and then on up this way. So even all the way up to Cleveland. So I think that out of 105,000 people, there will probably be 15,000 Tennessee fans. They got 3,500 tickets, the school did, that they could sell directly to their highest rollers and their friends and family, certainly. But to me, I think it's a big to-do. I think a lot of people hoarded tickets. They got in there and they bought 6 or 8, thinking I'll turn these on resale. And the issue is it's 26 degrees, and there are only certain number of people who are crazy enough to go out and sit in 26-degree weather to watch a college football game. And I think nearly every seat will be full, but I think that compacts the number of people who are willing to go to this game. I think anybody over the age of 50 or 55, 60 is seriously saying, I ain't going there and getting sick, and ruin my winter, ruin my Christmas. So, I think you have to look at it in those terms that, Michigan, you'd say, oh, it's always a big ticket game. Well, it's usually a softer ticket than you think it is, because there's a lot of people who simply will not sit outside in 30-degree weather to watch a college football for 4 hours through all the TV timeouts. I mean, it just, this is going to be a 4-hour game. It's going to start at 8. It's not going to end till 11:45. And then with traffic at Ohio State, as terrible as it is, you're not going to get home until 1:30 or 2 in the morning. And that's even if you live within 20 miles of the stadium. So it just, for a lot of people, that just doesn't sound that appealing. So even though it is history, it's the first ever December game. So, yeah, I think there'll be some Tennessee people there, but I don't think it's going to be enough to impact the game. And, Ohio State people have to bring it. I thought the Indiana crowd was great. I didn't think the Michigan crowd was very good. It was 15 degrees colder, so people were bundled up maybe a little bit more than they were against Indiana. I mean, you don't hear a lot when people are clapping their gloves as opposed to when people are clapping their hands. But, I don't know. It's they got to bring it, just as much as people say the team's got to bring it, the coaches got to bring it, the fans got to bring it in this game as well. So I think it'll be a great crowd, and the people who will be there will be the people who want to be there. They're not just going to see and be seen.
We haven't heard anything about any post-game ceremony or anything. Are we assuming it's just going to be like a regular game? After the game is over, everybody just leaves the field? Like, there's nothing going on afterwards, right?
No, there'd be no podium or anything like that, because I think there'll be on-field interviews, with, a couple of the players and maybe the head coach of the winning team, as you always see in every ESPN game. But to my way of thinking, no, there's no ceremony or anything like that. This is just, you move on and advance. For the bowl game, there probably will be. For the Rose Bowl, there probably would be the next game, because that's just part of the pomp and circumstance of the Rose Bowl. But, for the corporate sponsor to get their moment in the sun, the CEO of City Financial or whoever sponsors it. But, I envision I guess there'll be some differences that, like, Tennessee will probably get to play like a warm-up video, a come-out video when they're coming out of the tunnel. And from what I understand, IMG Learfield, who does all the ribbon boards and all the advertisements, this is all college football playoff stuff that will run in those places. So, and they have to, I think even go so far. Ohio State has LED boards now in place of most of the advertising signs. I think that even advertisements have to be like covered up or, CFB approved, to appear in the stadium during this. But otherwise, it's supposed to be an Ohio State home game. And we'll see how much that is, if they're going to play CFP music or if it's the Ohio State DJ who does it, or if it's, I think both bands will be there certainly. Mm-hmm. So I think both bands are going to play for like 6.5 minutes at halftime. I assume both bands will be on the field before the game. So, it'll be different. It'll be different, but it's definitely Ohio State's home game. So, the Buckeyes and their fans need to show out.
Yeah, I don't necessarily understand the overwhelming incentive when you can stay home and see the product in every possible way, every possible angle of play, and so forth and so on, to devote 10 hours of your day to do that. But that's me.
This is kind of like the spring game version of the playoffs, where it's still an expensive ticket, but relative to going to the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl or whatever, it's like this is the cheapest ticket that you can get if you want to spend $200 on one ticket to watch a playoff game, as opposed to airfare and hotel and another $250 to get the ticket. So this is the more family friendly edition, where it would only cost a family of $4 $1,000 to get into the game. It's basically nothing.
One of my best friends, his wife, daughter, son-in-law to be, son, the son-in-law to be's father, the whole clan's going, and he's like, have a good time. I'll sit in my comfort. All right, folks, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the super chat coming in from Wayne Taylor of 3417. Good morning, gang. This is my score prediction for the game. Once again, 34-17. Go Buckeyes. Happy holidays to you all and your loved ones. Wayne, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you as well. 34-17. Does anybody else have any score predictions out there? Maybe I see a track meet. Does anyone see like 65-62 maybe?
How many overtimes?
Let's stay there till 1 a.m.
Can throw that out on a super chat.
Possibly. Yeah, you know what's interesting?
That was the angle, Tony.
Throw all score predictions in super chats and bathe them and bring them to us now. As Beavis and Butthead used to say. But I don't see a lot of scoring for whatever reason. I think you have two great defenses, and the conditions, there's going to be passes that are dropped just because it's cold, and balls that'll be fumbled just because it's cold. And that may keep down the number of points that are scored in this game. I think that it's 34-17, if that's what it comes down, would be like pennies from heaven for Ryan Day. I mean, that would buy him like another year of everybody off his ass, I think, to get a playoff win in that regard and go on to the to the Rose Bowl and play Oregon and let the chips fall where they may. And if you win that game, you've obviously now completely or not completely, but 94% redeemed yourself. But if you don't, you still came out of this feeling a little better about things than just going into the offseason off the loss to Michigan. So it's really interesting when you think about this. What is the psyche of these players? They see all the negativity around them, and a lot of it due because they just simply didn't get the job done against Michigan for the fourth year in a row. And it was like a crap storm of negativity that just rained down around them on social media. The radio talk show hosts, here in Columbus, they used to have a filter because they had an athletic director named Andy Geiger years ago. And if somebody on the house organ over there at 97.1 The Fan said something he didn't like, about how they were presenting the games, about the coaching, about the players, about Ohio State in general. Andy Geiger got on the phone and said, no more of this. We're pulling the contract. I mean, just boom. And they put a stop to it. Well, nobody does that anymore. So people now have free reign to take shots, even on 97.1 The Fan, all the time. And they did, and they have. So what are the players thinking at this point? Are they thinking, man, we got a chance to go win the national championship, ... but we only have to win 4 games to do it, and we have to beat Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Georgia, or whoever in succession to do it. To me, that'd be like standing at the bottom of Mount Everest and looking straight up at it and saying, I'm going up there. You know, that to me, you know, seems like a really heavy task. And it's all compacted, you know, this thing from beginning to end on Friday to January the 20th is like 30 days, you know, 4 games in 30 days. And, you know, good luck. You know, there's another one coming at you at the speed of light in 8 or 9 days. You know, and you're going to travel out of town, you know, in 6 days. Oh, and you're not going to have Christmas with your family unless they come to Columbus and spend it with you. And, you know, it's just so many things are going on, you know, with these kids. And you just wonder, what are they thinking? What put yourself in their shoes. Do I really want to play for these people who hate me, you know, or hate my coach, or, you know, want my coach fired, or have turned on us, you know? Well, you know, it's a two-way street. You know, you get the support that you deserve too. And, you know, at some point, enough is enough. And all the talk of, and all the rhetoric of, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And, you know who did things? You know, the 2002 class, they did things. You know, the 2002 team won the national championship. The 2006 team got back to the national championship. You know who did things? You know, the 2011, 2012 class, the 2013 class, they did things. You know, they won Big Tens. They beat Michigan. They won national championships. You know who hasn't done anything? You know, the class of 2021. You know, number 2 ranked recruiting class, 10 top 100 guys, whatever the number was. They haven't done anything. And it's unfortunate for them. You know, a lot of bad circumstances have kind of conspired against them. But, you know, hey, it's put up or shut up time. You know, this is the 9th inning. There is, you know, this is it. You're going no further. This is it. So, you know, either you do or you don't on Saturday night, and that's your legacy to me. So what's their psyche? What are they thinking at this point?
Well, and if we want to go back into time, and this is not to you know, defend Ryan Day or anything, that 2002 team, which everybody, Ohio State loves, Ohio State fans love, and it was a long time coming, shared a conference title with Iowa and played 1 postseason game. Like that's all it took to win a national title 22 years ago. Play 1 postseason game. And now
scraped by Michigan like 14-9, and they're even though they were 13-0 and had played the extra preseason game against Texas Tech, there were people like, should somebody else be going to play Miami? Because this Ohio State team just doesn't look like they've got it. You know, beat Illinois in overtime, needed the holy Buckeye to beat Purdue, had the interception in the end zone, I think, to beat Cincinnati or Wisconsin, you know, whatever. Chris Gamble makes these plays, and you know, you're right. But
to think they're going to beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship game, like, okay, I mean, they won a bunch of close games, but Iowa was really good that year. The 2005 Ohio State team wins a Big Ten championship by tying with Penn State, a team that beat them. Like, so it was a lot easier to win Big Ten titles back then. It was a lot easier to win national titles back then, even for Urban Meyer's 2014. You know, that's an easier road than the road that is ahead of teams now. But I will say Ryan Day had an opportunity to follow the same path as Urban Meyer with the 4-team playoff, and wasn't able to get it done. Got there once to the final game, but it's a completely different animal now in terms of Big Ten title. I look at how many more teams there are in terms of national title. And we've been saying it since before the season started. Whoever wins the title this year is going to have run the toughest road in college football history. And to look back and Jim Tressel won what he did. He played one postseason game to get it. And I think it's like you've got this inclusion now where all of the coaches are you've got so many coaches that are glad that they have an opportunity to make the playoffs because that kind of eases things. Like, I've made the playoffs, I can't possibly be fired. But then it's like, wouldn't you rather just have one game? If you could just play one game for a national title, yes, I would take that, but I need to be guaranteed that I'm going to get that. At least here, I'm almost guaranteed to make the playoffs in a 12 team. So like, you have more access, but it's a much, much more difficult road.
Yeah, it's a fascinating comparison. This team would obviously not be in a 14 playoff, so they would have no chance. They would have blown that against Michigan. But they do have this opportunity. And as you guys point out, that 2014 team, arguably, I'm sure there are other stretches, but that was one of the tougher runs that a team had to go on. Wisconsin, Alabama, Oregon to get to a national championship. But this one may not just be the toughest of all time. It may be the toughest possible in this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever wins it this year, yes, had the toughest road, but Ohio State's may be the toughest, but someone will be the national champ. So someone will get through this.
Yeah. And if Ohio State's road could be Oregon out west, if they beat Tennessee, which is no given, Oregon in the Rose Bowl, Texas in the Cotton Bowl, Georgia in the Peach Bowl. Like, I mean, that's basically 3 road games against some of the best teams, the 4 best teams in the nation.
Yes. If that glazed by people, that was just an extremely wise and poignant and profound statement I made. Somebody will win the national championship. Yes. I think this is pretty well founded. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Please smash the like button. It's a simple thing to do that helps see what the deal is that YouTube knows that we've got a community here. So all of you see the show and the people subscribe to the channel get an opportunity to see the show. But if YouTube says, you know what, a lot of people liked that show, they commented, they hit the like button. Okay, we're going to drive it out into the YouTube universe and allow other people to look at it. So let's drive this thing into traffic. That's when you get some significant viewership. So we appreciate you being here. And just one more note on where we were with all of that. It just amazes me. And I know I'm a little bit closer to this situation than others, but I'm pretty well spread out across the college football landscape, talking about all these games and covering all these teams. So contrary to what a lot of people think, my Ohio State knowledge isn't what it used to be, nor is it that much off of what it is for Penn State or whoever, USC. But when these games get discussed, whether I'm involved or I'm just observing others, every other playoff game is a nuts and bolts football conversation. This is like you walked into some kind of psychiatric session. It's just amazing. That's what most of it's about. Like, is this team going to show up or not? Basically, little of it has to do with Tennessee, and all due credit to Tennessee. They earned the spot just as much as Ohio State, but it does seem to be Ohio State is a better football team than Tennessee at its best. Are they going to show up on Saturday night? I really don't know. I didn't know that they were going to show up against Georgia 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. It kind of begs the question.
Stroud obviously showed up as well.
Yeah, it begs the question: like, is this a senior class problem or is it a coaching problem? Is this? And I don't know that we'll know that. We may never know that because I would agree there is this. And I don't know how you're saying this is a national thing as well in terms of when you look at Ohio State. Will they show up? Will they be in their feelings or whatever? And I think those are legit questions because it took them a little while to get over that loss to Oregon. It took them a while to get over the loss to Michigan, and we'll see if they are. Now, they have been saying all of the right things, which you would expect, but the message has been put forth that you have earned this right to be in the playoffs, and you still have the ultimate goal out in front of you, and which is the national championship. And the whole thing of this, talking to some of the seniors, we don't want to leave here with nothing. And I mean, that's to lay it all on one last ride for the national championship. That's kind of like putting it all on red or black and just spinning the wheel. And it's like, well, we'll see. You got like a 1 in 36 chance here. Except this is more like I guess 1 in 12.
The way Steve laid it out, I got to say, opened my eyes a little bit when he lays out the responsibility of the fans and where they have fallen short. But sure, these players lay it on the line. They do their best. We assume they lift the weights. They watch the film. They do all the things that we don't think about 365 days a year. They make sacrifices. They're also walking on red carpet most of the time. So there is a pros and cons factor to their lifestyle. But at the same time, had they done all of that and kept their mouths shut and just said, hey, we're going to do our best this season. These are our goals. We're going to try to reach them. But the Denzel Burke saying I'm the best cornerback in the nation over and over and over, and, all these other statements about how great they are. Okay. You didn't necessarily prove it during the best teams against the best teams this season. You were close. We see what you can be. But you have to show up like that when the chips are down and when the game's on the line. So,
yeah, Steve, you're muted.
Yeah, no doubt. You hit the nail on the head with that. And are they primed to play well? Well, I think the defense is going to play great. I mean, they've played. I keep quoting the figures every week. I guess I'll take a second and add it up here in a minute, but they have played lights out the last whatever it would be, 3-6 games since Oregon. They have been outstanding. So they just need to keep doing what they're doing. And Jim Knowles, whatever groove he's gotten into with calling the defense, it's been fabulous. They've been really good against the run for the most part. Michigan certainly churned out some yards, but, as I was talking to somebody yesterday at the Shot, a guy who goes to football practice quite a bit, and we were both of a mind that when your offense in that second half only runs like 8 or 10 plays, whatever it was, the exact number, and they go 3 and out, well, and then you have a defensive line coach who won't substitute. Mm-hmm. So you've got a number of things that conspire against you. You have your defense is being left for dead out on the field, and then you don't take tired players out of the game because they're your best players. You play right into Michigan's hands. And so, again, I asked Jim Knowles, essentially, I tried to ask some pointed questions. Doggone it, I did. Chip Kelly, I asked him to play call. I tried to ask about running inside, and then I screwed up and said, do play callers get into a rut? I should have just said, why'd you run inside so much? Whatever. And so he kind of took the ball and ran with it with, oh, yeah, I think you can get into a rut, and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. We never addressed the real issue. And then, of the stupidity of what they tried to do, again, putting the square peg into the round hole. And then Jim Knowles, it's kind of like, why do you let him get away with this? Why do you let Larry Johnson get away with this? I said, so you have guys who are good enough to play against, say, Iowa. Tony, you were sitting right there. Mm-hmm. You heard me say it. I said, you got guys who are good enough to play 25 plays. Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Malone, not Malone, Houston.
McDonald.
The other big kid inside who's come on, Caden McDonald. Mm-hmm. You got guys who are good enough to play 20, 25 plays against Iowa and Nebraska and, everybody else you played. But when you get in the quote unquote big game, you only have 4 guys who are good enough to play. Bullshit is my figure on that. Because in the one game that he did rotate those guys and those guys played some of their fewest snap counts of the year, they had tremendous production. And you get to the fourth quarter against Michigan and they got trampled. And it's because they were tired. They'd been overworked. They never got home, never sacked the quarterback. I know that he didn't rip them apart. He only threw for like 80 yards or something, but they converted one third down after another and ran the ball down your throat. And, here I am pissing and moaning about the defense. And they played great. But as Jim Tressel liked to say, everything is part of everything. Not producing on offense has a compounding effect on your defense. And if you don't do the smart thing on defense, when you're out there for an inordinate amount of plays and rotate your players, you're going to get beat. So hopefully they learned from that. If he has another, Sawyer, Tui, Maloau, Hamilton, Williams, 65-play game, Tennessee will win it in the fourth quarter. So,
yeah, Ohio State had 59 defensive snaps against Michigan, and Ty Hamilton and Tyleik Williams played 53 of those, and JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer played 53 and 52 of those. And
you wonder why Michigan sustains drives of 10 and 15 plays. Why is this? Why were they able to take the last 7 minutes off the clock and kick the winning field goal? It's because we ran the defense into the ground because our offense didn't produce and we didn't rotate on defense.
Yeah. And then you get Jack Sawyer have that interception and Larry Johnson's like, see, that's why he's out there, because he can make that play. And it's like,
well I want him in there on the goal line, Tony. I want him in there on the damn goal line. I want him in there at the start of the drive when they're on their own 20. I want him in there for that because maybe we'll get a 3 and out and impact the field position. But when they pick up the first down, it's time. It's time to change the line. I'm not saying sub all 4 guys, hockey sub it. I'm saying get a fresh guy in for 3 plays. Get a fresh guy in for 3 more plays. Rotate.
And it's not like Michigan is running tempo to where you can't do that. Michigan is constantly subbing, so you can put guys in. Where there might be an issue now is Tennessee will run tempo, and so it will be difficult to get guys in. And then sometimes when you do, it may be difficult to get them off, which may make Larry Johnson even more reticent to sub because, I don't want to get Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson trapped out there for an entire series or whatever. But you have to rotate against Tennessee because Tennessee is going to run 20 more plays than Michigan did, and they're going to do it in a fast fashion. And so, when there's an incompletion, you better sub, or else you're just, you know exactly what's going to happen in the fourth quarter because Tennessee will hurry up and run the ball. They will hurry up and run the ball. And eventually Dylan Sampson, if you look at his numbers, first quarter, Tennessee runs the ball for 4 yards a carry. Second quarter, it's 5 yards a carry. Third quarter, it's 6 yards a carry. And in the fourth quarter, they're just running the clock out. So it gets better and it gets better. And by the fourth quarter, if Ohio State has not been substituting on the defensive line, Tennessee's just going to run the ball and win the game. And that's what Tennessee does. They tire you out. They run wide. They throw these screens. They'll get the defensive tackles running around and soften up that middle, and then just keep running at it as well. And Nico Iamaleava is a guy that can keep plays alive. He on a 3rd and 9, he can scramble and get out of trouble and pick up another first down. And then you're like, that's just a killer to the defense when that happens. So you have to sub guys. And the other thing is, if Larry Johnson isn't confident in playing his juniors that are going to be seniors next year, what does that say about next year's defensive line?
Not good. Not good, Bob. Not good.
And that is certainly true about the Tennessee production. I will say that in one game against Georgia, of course, the game that they looked the worst and got manhandled the worst, Dylan Sampson came out on fire. The offense was smoking. They had like a 75-yard touchdown drive. Then they turned around a short field for a field goal, and it's 10-zip. They're rocking, and then Georgia put a stop to it, and they were the far dominant team after that. And that's what Ohio State should do at home against Tennessee. Tennessee's a really good football team. And certainly if they win this game, I will not be surprised in the slightest. I may even pick them to win the game. I don't know. But Ohio State's a better team. And if they play up to their capabilities, it should look something like the Georgia game.
Yeah, I would agree. Ohio State has the defense that is kind of built to contend with this. Now you just have to execute. Jim Knowles talked about how when he was defensive coordinator at Duke, David Cutcliffe said, I want this to be the fastest calling defense in the nation because they are facing a lot of tempo. So he wanted them, like, however you design this defense, the calls have to be immediate. And so that's what they've done. And then he says, Ohio State still has the fastest calling defense in the nation. And it was interesting to listen to how they're doing some of the things to prepare for tempo, which, you're having the scout team and the twos go as fast as they can, but you can only do so much of that. They've also had the defense get lined up, but have their backs turned towards the ball. And then, on a whistle, the entire defense turns towards the ball and then has to find their assignment and get run over there before the ball gets snapped. So there's some processing that has to go on, but it has to be immediate, and you got to get lined up. You got to know what you're doing. But from everything the players and the coaches have said, like, they've been preparing for this, they've been dealing with this. You have a veteran defense. You are as equipped to contend with the Tennessee offense as any defense in the country. You just have to tackle. You just have to not commit pass interference penalties. And again, you just have to tackle. Get Nico Iamaleava down when you get a chance. Get Dylan Sampson down when you get a chance. Ohio State did a fantastic job of tackling against Michigan until they didn't. And it was just one play, and that sealed the game for the Wolverines. So you can't – if this is a close game, every single play, it could be the decider. So you've got to be sound. And I think for the Ohio State offense, run some tempo. Tennessee's defense does not like it. They don't get lined up. You won't do it constantly because they'll eventually catch on, but you change some speeds, you can get them. They do have some good pass rushers, but the secondary, they've got a good corner. Their safeties are kind of wishy-washy. Like, I've watched 4 games now, and Andre Turntine, their free safety, who is a former Ohio State guy, only gets a couple of tackles a game. You don't necessarily really notice him all that much making plays. I think the secondary can be had as long as the tackles hold up for Ohio State. I would not advise running inside the tackles for the Buckeyes because that's not been their strength for a while now. And so
can you repeat that, Tony?
Yeah, well, but like, they've learned their lesson, but let's see if they actually can take that lesson that they've learned and apply it to this game as well. And Steve mentioned it at the outset, going through this shuffling of the offensive line. They need to get that settled. I think one of the issues that I was told against Michigan is Austin Searveld got banged up. So he was playing a little banged up. And so that impacted things. And that might be also why they're taking a look at Luke Montgomery right now. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Searveld and Chabola back in there by the second half of that game. If things aren't going well, if Luke Montgomery gets the start and things aren't going well, Ryan Day said they're going to rotate. So figure out what works by the half and then go with that guy through the second half is what I would assume.
I think one of the commenters made a really cogent point here. Don't settle for field goals. And that was a question that the other question I asked Chip Kelly. Did you lose confidence in Will Howard after the big hit? He didn't play like we had seen him play in the previous 11 games for the most part. Did you lose confidence in Will Howard? And I brought up the 2 third down calls where they ran the ball. He said coming off the goal line, they ran that play to Henderson, which did get booed because they were trying to get the punter out away from the goal line. And, it was 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10 back in your own end. The quarterback had already thrown an interception deep in his own end, and they were trying to give the punter a better chance to get it out of there and help with the field position. They were going into the wind, so they just figured they needed to help the punter in that situation. The other one, where they were going into the north end and had the 3rd and 9, that was the series where they had the throwback pass to G. Scott, I think, on 2nd down for nothing, and then try to draw play. I will give Chip the very, very small benefit of the doubt on that one, because one time in 4, that draw play will slip through there and get you what you need. And again, 3rd and 9 in that situation, should be a chip shot field goal. So they didn't want to screw that up. As we used to joke about Jim Tressel, don't doink up my three, or don't screw up my three. You know, he was famous for, you know, setting that ball perfectly for the field goal. So this game, don't play for field goals, play for touchdowns. We'd much rather prefer that you go down, try and get that freaking ball to Jeremiah Smith. Think we'd rather, you know, if you go down, throwing the ball to Jeremiah Smith and the ball's incomplete in the end zone, their guy makes a great play, or he just can't bring it in. Hey, we'll at least know you tried. You know, let's don't give Tennessee secondary that much credit. Let's go on the attack here. Emeka Egbuka, last game potentially as a Buckeye. I want to see like 6 for 100 in a touch. That's what I want to see. Jeremiah Smith, 7 for 100. That would be wonderful. Carnell Tate, work those sidelines, 5 for 50. You know, keep the chains rolling. If we get those 3 productions right there, Ohio State.
Yeah, I think as I said, Tennessee has a really good corner, Jamad McCoy, number 3. I'll be interested to see what they do with him. Do they match him up with Jeremiah? But they're going to move Jeremiah around as well. They'll move him into the slot. They'll move him wherever they need to. So I think they realize they have to look for their matchups. Against Alabama, Ryan Williams was targeted 19 times in that game against Tennessee. Like, they threw to him relentlessly. I'm not saying 19 targets for Jeremiah Smith, because that's a bit much, but if he ends up with 5 targets or whatever, that's not winning football. He's one of your best players, and so you've got to use him. Now, one of the issues I thought it was interesting with Chip Kelly talking about, one of the issues with the game plan and Ryan Day as well against Michigan, was that a third of their plays were either coming out of the end zone or going into the end zone. So you don't have a ton of plays for that, and you're kind of limited in what you generally do in those instances, and that's maybe one of the reasons that they weren't able to do more. They're just bad situations, and you know what? But that's also football. That's going to happen. Special teams in this game might, if we're talking field position, because I think special teams killed Ohio State against Michigan, so there's no guarantee that it won't do the same against Tennessee. I will say Tennessee did give up a 100-yard kickoff return against Vanderbilt, but as I keep saying this week, and as we know, that does not apply to Ohio State, because they do not return kickoffs, and they shouldn't. Frankly, don't return any kickoffs in this game.
The special teams are not special at Ohio State.
Yeah, to your point, Steve, if they're changing ends at the end of the first quarter and Ohio State's gone on 2 long, impressive drives, and Tennessee may have had a 15-yard drive and kicked like a 52-yard field goal, and it's 6-3 Ohio State, but the total offense is like 150-20. You didn't get it done there in the first quarter. That's not the way to make these cash in. All right. I would say that the most talent on one field and the 2 best teams combined are in Columbus this weekend. So, Tony, out of the other 3, which one intrigues you the most, and what do you have to say about the other 3?
Yeah, honestly, haven't got a ton of opportunity to think too much about them, other than, yes, I am aware of what's going on. Pulling them up now, like Clemson and Texas is the helmet game, along with Tennessee and Ohio State. But I think we're all looking forward to the very first game, which is Friday night, Indiana and Notre Dame. I don't know how well that's going to go for the Hoosiers. I think Notre Dame's defense is pretty legit, and they can run the ball. So I'm expecting Notre Dame to win that one. Not an easy ticket for Hoosier fans to get, other than their 3,500 allotment. But I know we're all looking forward to finally getting it underway and watching that one. And then I'll probably head to campus at, like, I don't know, halftime of the Penn State game. And SMU Penn State, which is, if there was ever a noon game for a playoff game, that would be it, in my opinion. And not a big noon, just a regular noon. This is the ESPN2, Raycom or whatever noon game of the playoffs.
Steve, what do you think about the rest of the lineup?
Yeah, Indiana Notre Dame. What a great game that is. And two teams that probably played about the same level of schedule. I mean, Notre Dame really didn't play anybody in the top 10. Indiana did, and they lost to them, but they beat everybody else, and I know everyone's throwing the Northern Illinois thing in Marcus Freeman's face. This system shows you are allowed to have, one screw up. And I think that's okay. It is 11-1 Notre Dame better than 9-3 Alabama. I don't know. We'd have to put them on a field and figure that out. But I just think that you could have gone either direction on this, but common sense tells you that Notre Dame deserves their spot. They beat a number of high major teams, even if none of them were in the top 10. So. And they beat them pretty impressively. They had some very impressive wins. I thought the win at USC to end the season was very impressive for them. I mean, their last 5 or 6 games, they played pretty much lights out. So I don't think anybody even really challenged them that much there down the stretch. Indiana obviously didn't play a great second half. It really kind of fell apart, at the end of the first half against Ohio State, and wasn't 4 quarters strong against that type of a team. And they're going to have to really summon something, I think, to play 4 great quarters and beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. So I think Notre Dame, all these games are about the same. All the home teams are favored by like 7 points. And I think Notre Dame has the opportunity to maybe win theirs by more than 7. I guess I just want to see how Notre Dame's offense comes out in this game against Indiana's defense and see, are they legit? That mid game, SMU and Penn State, or I guess that's the first game the Texas game, or is the first game the Penn State game?
Penn State.
Penn State. Okay, I'm getting them confused. Yeah, SMU's kind of Johnny come lately here, moved to the ACC, and now you're big league, you tell me? I'll believe it when I see it. And Penn State's got to win that game. Poor Franklin, he's kind of like, Day in Michigan and Cooper in Michigan. He couldn't beat Ohio State. It's the only game that matters on his schedule. And really didn't do all that great against Michigan, sometimes either. But to me, that's a game he has to win, or the referendum's on him. And I think they will. I think they'll win at home. SMU didn't play particularly well against Clemson for 3 quarters, and then had that, furious comeback, at the end, and lost the game on a 56-yard field goal or something stupid. So, should be a good game. That one, I don't know whether to say Penn State wins by double figures or not. Maybe they will at home. Just depends. Is the moment too big for SMU? Have they ever played in a stadium with 111,000 people? I tend to doubt it. So that's going to, and again, I think Penn State had the same problem that a lot of these schools have. The students are gone. So there's your base of 20,000 tickets sold right off the top. I think that's a really soft ticket. It's cold weather. It's a very difficult place to get in and out of. So, I mean, here in Columbus, you've got 1 million people live in the city of Columbus. So you actually have, a huge population base to sell tickets to. In Penn State, they have to come from all over the state. Hotels are hard to get, so that was a soft ticket. We'll see how that crowd plays out. Can't imagine many people are traveling from SMU for that game. And then Texas and Clemson, Clemson backdoors their way into the ACC championship and then screws up and wins it. And, Texas, who have they beaten? Lost to Georgia twice. What's their signature win? Do they even have one? What is their best win, Mark? Texas.
Florida 7-5, Michigan 7-5
on the road. Yeah,
Texas A&M 8-4.
Yeah, so I don't know. Wouldn't put anything past Dabo. I mean, he's a winner. He's won in the past. Let's just say that he has won in the past. And so, does he steal this one on guys and poise and just just orneriness? Does he just steal this thing? I mean, Clemson will play some head scratching games. You know what? They got beat at home by Louisville by 2 touchdowns or something stupid. You know, when things don't make sense to me, I say that's something stupid. You know, it just they just came out flat that day and didn't have it. So
They Clemsoned.
you know, it's kind of in the same position of Ohio State. You know, lose the last game. Are you getting up for this? I don't know. Maybe.
Steve, as to your question about the biggest crowd that SMU has played in this year, that would be 50,000 at Louisville.
50,000.
Yep.
They did play at Oklahoma last year, 84,000 there, but this will be a bit more.
Yeah, they're in a little deep, I think, at Penn State. So Texas could blow them out. If Texas gets rolling, Texas could blow them out. But yeah, I think we'll see. 3 great games. I wanted to have a tailgate party, have the NFL games on one, because there's 2 great NFL games. The Chiefs and the Texans with our guy Stroud, and the Steelers and the Ravens to determine the North on one screen, and then to have the college on the other, and then flip over to Ohio State basketball in Kentucky at 5:30. How about my boys last night, Tone?
No.
I say tongue in cheek. I'm not bullshitting you. I'm just tongue in cheek. You know, coming off the 38-point loss to Auburn, they better have showed up last night. They beat up Valpo by 24. Devin Royal, 31 points, 15 rebounds. First guy to do that since Jared Sullinger. Boy, we're invoking the sacred name of Jared Sullinger. You know, good things are going on. So, but they are in deep, certainly, Saturday at the Garden. Sad I'm not going to New York City to fight the traffic to go to the Garden to watch Kentucky and Ohio State, but I'll be in a much better place. The capital of college football, the Mecca of college football, Ohio Stadium.
I should click the end record button on that statement, but I guess I'm too foolish and not a good enough host to do such a thing, because I'm going to say one more thing and leave this open to comment. Another indication that I'm not a very good host is that we've gone through an entire show. How did we do this? Not mention the name Will Howard once.
Oh, well, I did bring him up to Chip Day Chip Kelly just in passing. I asked Emeka Buka, you know, and people were dancing around the corners with him. How frustrated were you not getting the football? And Buka said, I'm always frustrated. It doesn't matter, you know, who's the quarterback. If it doesn't come to me, I'm frustrated. But he has positive ways he channels it. I said, do you still have confidence in Will Howard? Just put it point blank directly, but, you know, boom, right between the eyes. He's like, yes, we still have confidence in Will Howard. I know he's going to play like he did all season. And no doubt in Will Howard, he's looking good in practice. So the reports are that Will Howard, you know, the rumors of his demise greatly have exaggerated. He's going to be there on Saturday night and play good football, if we believe how he's practicing.
Yeah. And if the conditions, if he's able to operate in these conditions, and when we left the Michigan game last year and drove home, we stopped in Bowling Green for some frickers or something, and it was the Kansas State Iowa State game on when it was in the snow, and watching Will Howard unknowingly as the future Ohio State quarterback operate in the snow. I think it was 24-48 in that one, and was running the ball and handling it well. I think you know, he seems confident. I think I asked him about the weather and the cold, and there's no concern there. They've been playing in it. I think it won't be as windy as it was against Michigan, so that should help the passing game. But also, you know, even he threw an interception before he got his bell rung, and then even afterwards, if you can still pass a concussion test and not play your best, you know, and maybe things aren't firing on all cylinders like they should. So he's healthy, and you know, he always has the 1 or 2 or 3 plays that you'd like to have back, and in a close game, those can be the ones that cost you. But I think being healthy and seeing Tennessee has given up plenty of yards through the air this year, I think as long as they protect him, Ohio State will be okay.
Buckeye Weekly Podcast, Tony. What are people in store for this week?
Well, boy, we've run through all of the things that we've watched 4 Tennessee games. We've talked about what we've learned from those games, and podcasts over the past week and how it applies to Ohio State. We will drop one later today about I think Ryan Day's reaction. This is the final time we'll talk with Ryan Day. We will also drop one. We dropped one yesterday about what Tennessee needs to do to win. We'll drop one today or tomorrow about what Ohio State needs to do to win. And then Thursday we'll have our bold prediction show, and Friday the full preview show. And I'm not sure what else there is to say after 42 shows about this game for a just final prediction show. But you can find all of that. Just search Buckeye Weekly on all of your audio podcast platforms, or search YouTube for Buckeye Huddle or Buckeye Weekly.
Steve, what do you have available for us this week?
Oh, still working on my preview of the game and my pick. I'm thinking something in the 24-20 range, something like that. Again, I think low scoring, but we'll see how it all turns out. And I'm going to have picks for those playoff games as well tomorrow, probably on the site. And, just going to keep it rocking all the way through the game on Saturday night. It's going to be a great weekend of college football, and can't wait to get into it.
And maybe next week we can devote an entire hour to Alex Orji's presence in the transfer portal and how much Ohio State should go out and get themselves a quarterback for 2025. I don't know. All right, folks. We appreciate
what a godsend he would be.
We appreciate you all being
here. On third
down. On third and half a yard.
Third and 1. He's your guy.
All right, folks, we do appreciate you being here. Catch Tony's work, Steve's work as well. Guys, enjoy the game, and we'll be back here next week.
Sounds good.
Take care.